I finally crocheted the houndstooth vest I've always wanted, and it turned out so cute, so I thought I would share with you guys my approach, walk you through how I designed it. But as I was telling you guys before, I'm trying to improve my design. That involves some degree of complexity, so this might be a bit difficult for some beginners, but you can always save this video and come back when you're ready. I learned somewhere before how to do the houndstooth pattern, so if we don't do any shaping, it's actually rather simple. The vest is worked as 2 panels from the bottom up, and the bottom part of the vest is just a rectangle. This is how I started the panel. I used the lighter color, made a slip knot, then made a chain of 70. For this pattern, you need to chain an even number of stitches. I love oversized stuff, but for this vest, I want to make it more like a fitted one. This 70 chains is only the width of one panel, so I made it a little bit more than half of my chest measurement, and it measures a little bit more than 20 inches. So at the beginning of the row, I just chained 1, and for this first row, I worked the stitches in the back loop. So make a single crochet in the back loop of the second chain from the hook, and then in the back loop of the next chain, make a double crochet, and this is all I need to do for this pattern. Alternate between a single and a double crochet, and this is why I'm making an even number of stitches, because it's easier to manage. So I ended the row with a double crochet, but the way how the houndstooth is formed is by changing color every row. So at the very last stitch, I just worked my double crochet to the last 2 loops on hook. Then I changed color. And then I just tied these 2 together to secure it. To begin the next row, I chained 1, and from the very first stitch, continued working the pattern of 1 single and then 1 double crochet. This pattern is very easy to keep track. Basically, if your next stitch is a double crochet, then you just make a single crochet on it. If your next stitch is a single crochet, then you make a double crochet on it. At the very last stitch, which is again a double crochet, I worked to the last 2 loops on hook and then directly changed color using the yarn coming from the other end. So basically, I just repeated the same row, switching color every row. I didn't want to make the vest too long, so I only did 20 rows before I was ready to shape the armhole. So after 20 rows, I had all these yarns attaching the 2 ends together. So I just cut them like that. And then what I do is just tie the 2 colors together. If you watch other videos, normally they will tell you to carry the other color, but I didn't even do that because after I crochet along this edge, these are gonna be covered, so it doesn't really matter. But the reason why I didn't do that, first I want to save yarn. If you carry the other color, it's only because you want to have that color available at the beginning of your next row. But it's a kind of a waste of the yarn. Imagine all those rows you have to work, and each row you have to carry the thread just to get it to the other side. The second reason is because if we carry the thread, it's not going to be a single thread is not going to be as stretchy, so it'll make the finished vest not as stretchy. So this is me after 20 rows. I have 10 rows in each color, so 20 rows in total. And that's about 6 inches. So next I'm going to leave some length on each side of the panel. From the next row I'm going to start decreasing. So at the end of row 20, without changing color, I just chain 1 and cut the yarn. So I flip the panel to start the next row. Usually my decrease method is to leave some stitches on the side and then work a straight line decrease, but I want to do it properly this time. So what I'm going to do is still leave some stitches here, but then I will decrease a lot here and then gradually decrease less and less. So that means I can't just work 2 stitches together decrease every time. I have to decrease more, maybe like 4 stitches together and then 3 stitches together, then 2 stitches together, So I tried that out. I left 4 stitches and attached my yarn in the 5th stitch. I have to leave an even number of stitches because for this pattern the stitches are worked in pairs. So first I pull up a loop from that stitch and chain 1 to reach the height of the row. Then in the first stitch I pull up a loop, but I didn't finish the single crochet because I need to work it with the next 3 stitches together. So the next stitch is a double crochet. So I just yarn over and pull up a loop from that stitch. Yarn over, pull through 2. And this is an unfinished double crochet. Next stitch, pull up a loop, unfinished single crochet, then yarn over, pull up a loop from the next stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, unfinished double crochet, and then I just yarn over and pull through all 5 loops on my hook. So that was the first 4 stitches worked as 1 stitch. And then from the next stitch, I can just continue working the regular pattern. I didn't mark the first stitch because I can tell which one it is, but you should mark it if you're not familiar with this stitch. So I have 4 stitches at the edge and then work the next 4 stitches as 1 stitch. So I should do the same on this side. So I counted 4 stitches and then 4 stitches again and then worked the next 4 stitches together. Again, that is 1 unfinished single crochet, 1 unfinished double crochet, 1 unfinished single, 1 unfinished double. But this time, because this is the end of the row, I need to change color. As the second stitch is a double crochet, I should work a single crochet on top of it. So that means the first stitch should be a double crochet. So I work my double crochet differently. If you've seen my tutorials before, I first work a single crochet and then I insert my hook in the left vertical loop and then pull up a loop. To finish it, I should yarn over and pull through 2, but I'm doing decrease, so I left it like that. And in the next stitch, did a unfinished single crochet, then an unfinished double, unfinished single, and then yarn over, pull through all 5. And then I continued working following the regular pattern. So I left 4 stitches at the end of the row as well. I also started with an unfinished double, and then unfinished single, unfinished double, and 1 unfinished single. But then I need to change color again. So after doing 2 rows of decrease 4 stitches together at the beginning and at the end of the rows, I moved on to decreasing 3 stitches together the following 2 rows. From the pattern of the last row, I could tell I should begin with a single crochet, so the 3 unfinished stitches are single, double, single. Then I continued with the pattern until I have 3 stitches left at the end of the row. But be careful when you're counting the stitch. That is the last stitch, and that's not a stitch. So I have 1, 2, 3 stitches left. And the 3 unfinished stitches are double, single, double. The next row still begins with a decrease 3 together, and that is a single, double, single, 3 stitches decreased together. Continuing working the pattern until I have 3 stitches left again, then did a double, single, double decrease. So after 4 rows of decrease, the width of the row is still too wide for my shoulder, so I continued decreasing but beginning to decrease less. So at the beginning and at the end of the row, I started working decrease 2 together. From the pattern of the last row, I could tell the first stitch should be a single crochet, so I worked a single, double, decrease together. And with 2 stitches left, I worked a single, double, decrease again. The next row still begins with a decrease 2 together, but it is a double, single, decrease. So I worked a single crochet first and then pulled up a loop from the left vertical bar as an unfinished double crochet, and then unfinished single, decrease them together, then continued with the pattern, and with 2 stitches left, I worked a double, single, decrease. So after 2 rows of decreased 2 stitches together, I was thinking if I should continue decreasing, but then I thought I don't want this distance too big, so I decided to stop decreasing and just work regular rows from here. The row ends with a single and a double, so from this row I could just go back to the regular pattern. So that means each row from here begins with a single crochet and ends with a double crochet. After 6 rows of decrease, I did 24 regular rows. I didn't need to change color at the very last stitch, so I just finished it as usual, chained 1 and cut the yarn. I started the front panel in the exact same way, and the outline of the front panel is the same as the back one, but the front panel is also gonna have a V-neck. I wanted to begin the V-neck from the same row where I started the armhole decrease, but I needed to do some calculation to figure out the decrease rate. I put the panel against my neck and worked out that I want to leave 6 stitches for each shoulder, so the V-neck will look like this. To make it easier, I focused on one side. With no decrease, one side has 19 stitches. After decrease, I want 6 stitches. And I have 30 rows to do this, which are 24 regular rows plus 6 decrease rows. So basically, I need to decrease 13 stitches within 30 rows. If I decrease 1 stitch every 2 rows, I can decrease 13 stitches with 26 rows. So this line will be a bit shallower, and the rest 4 rows, I can just work them as regular rows. So that's the V-neck. The outline of the front panel will be the same, like I said before. I divided the stitches in half by placing a stitch marker in the middle of the row. I started the V-neck in the same row as the arm decrease. To create the slope, I worked the 2 stitches on this very end together every other row. So when I had 2 stitches left, I just worked them together. Depending on what stitches I'm working into, if it's a single crochet, I'd work an incomplete double crochet. And if it's a double crochet, then an incomplete single crochet. Then I used the other color to complete the stitch. After a decreased row, I'd work a regular row. So on the V-neck side, I just worked 1 stitch in each stitch. Again, depending on what stitch I'm working into, it could be a single or a double crochet. On the armhole side, I just did the same thing as the back panel. When I came back to the V-neck side, I worked decrease again. So when I had 2 stitches left, I worked them as 1 stitch and then changed color. Sometimes when I couldn't figure out the first stitch, I just look at the second stitch of the row I'm working into. The second stitch is a double crochet, so the first stitch can be considered as a single crochet. So I made the very first double crochet using my method. And again, when I got to the armhole side, I just copied what I did on the back panel. After I finished the 6 decrease rows for the armhole, I started working regular stitches on this side, but continued decreasing for the V-neck, following the same pattern. Once I got to the point where I had 6 stitches in a row, I stopped decreasing altogether and just worked regular rows until the front has the same row count as the back, which is 50 rows. Then when I was working the last few rows, I started carrying the other color on the wrong side of the panel. By the way, the side where the lighter color is more prominent is my right side. For the other shoulder, I just followed the same pattern but reversed the shape. I attached the yarn in the first stitch from the stitch marker. On the armhole side, I still copied the back panel, and on the V-neck side, I worked the first 2 stitches together every other row. After the 2 panels were finished, I joined them at the shoulders from the wrong side using slip stitches. Then I did the side seam, working 1 slip stitches on the edge of each row, which was also done from the wrong side. When I got to the underarm, I continued from there and worked a single crochet round around the armhole. This is the foundation round for the ribbing. It makes working the ribbing a bit faster than without it. Then I used back loop only single crochet rows to make the actual ribbing. I did the same thing for the bottom and the neckline ribbing, including the foundation round. For the bottom ribbing, I just started from one side of the seam, but for the neck, I started from the center back, but then I didn't directly work the ribbing from there. I reattached the yarn to this corner at the front. So when I worked my way back, I could have 2 edges like these that could be sewn onto the edge.